October 1907. Wall Street, the heart of American capitalism, is dying. Banks are collapsing like dominoes. Panic-stricken crowds flood the streets, desperate to withdraw their life savings. But the doors are locked. The money is gone. President Theodore Roosevelt, the most powerful man in America, sits in the White House, paralyzed. The US Treasury is empty. The military can't fix this. America is hours away from total economic collapse. But in a mansion on Madison Avenue, behind locked doors, one man holds a meeting. Not a president, a banker. With a single decision, he will either save the nation or let it burn. This is the untold story of the man who was more powerful than presidents. The man who built and controlled America. He connected a divided nation with steel rails. He forged the world's first billion-dollar corporation. But he also crushed competitors, controlled 72 of America's largest corporations, and allegedly knew secrets about the Titanic that died with him. So the question isn't just about history, it's about power itself. When one man controls everything, is he the nation's savior or its greatest threat? His name? John Pierpont Morgan. America in the early 19th century is a fragile experiment. Banks rise and collapse overnight. Paper money is unstable. Trust in financial institutions is weak. Panic spreads faster than information. A single rumor can wipe out an entire city's economy. On April 17, 1837, a child is born in Hartford, Connecticut. His name is John Pierpont Morgan. The timing is no coincidence. The United States is in the grip of the Panic of 1837, one of the worst economic collapses in its early history. Banks are failing. Businesses are shutting down. Families are losing everything. Crisis is not something Morgan studies later in life. He is born into it. Morgan is born into wealth, but not comfort. His father, Junius Spencer Morgan, is already emerging as a serious force in international finance. From childhood, Pierpont is taught a harsh truth. Money is not about survival. Money is about control. Physically, his childhood is difficult. He is often ill, weak, and isolated. While other children play outdoors, Morgan spends long stretches indoors, surrounded by books, papers, and numbers. His early education begins in Hartford public schools, but his father quickly realizes that local schooling is not enough. Morgan is sent to private academies in New England. By his teenage years, Morgan is sent abroad. In Switzerland and Germany, he studies languages, mathematics, and business fundamentals. He becomes fluent in French and German, skills that will later allow him to negotiate directly with Europe's most powerful bankers without intermediaries. In 1856, at just 19 years old, Morgan begins his first real job not in America, but in London. He works as a clerk at Duncan Sherman & Company, the American banking firm closely connected to his father's business interests. By the end of 1856, Morgan is no longer just a banker's son. He is being shaped into something far more dangerous. He understands that markets are emotional. That panic creates opportunity. This mindset will define his entire life, and this is only the beginning. Armed with the brutal lessons learned in London during the Panic of 1857, that crisis does not destroy systems, it exposes who truly controls them. Morgan returns to the United States in the early 1860s. America is tearing itself apart in the Civil War. States are divided. Cities burn. Hundreds of thousands march toward death. But finance does not stop during war. It adapts. While soldiers fight on the battlefield, Morgan operates in the shadows of supply chains, contracts, and capital flows. The most infamous is the Hall carbine affair. Obsolete rifles are purchased cheaply, cosmetically refurbished, and resold to the Union Army at enormous profit. Morgan absorbs the lesson without remorse. He learns early that profit and morality do not always stand on the same side of history, and that power rarely punishes those who move fastest during chaos. When the Civil War ends, America does not slow down. It explodes, factories multiply, cities surge outward and upward. Nowhere is the chaos more destructive than in the railroads, the backbone of national expansion. By the 1870s, hundreds of railroad companies are locked in suicidal competition. The industry is collapsing under its own weight. Executives panic. Investors flee. Morgan does not. He sees opportunity where others see ruin. He introduces a radical idea for American capitalism: order through control. He demands veto power. He demands direct authority over operations. This is not partnership, it is command. Wall Street gives this method a name: Morganization. Under Morganization, chaos gives way to discipline. Prices stabilize, routes are rationalized, profits return. Investors regain confidence. By the 1880s, Morgan is no longer just financing railroads. He is designing the structure of American transportation itself. Power struggles erupt. At the dawn of the 20th century, America enters a new phase. Industry explodes. Cities rise upward instead of outward. Steel becomes the backbone of modern life: bridges, skyscrapers, factories, railways, weapons. Whoever controls steel controls the future. In 1901, Morgan moves decisively. He orchestrates the most powerful corporate consolidation the world has ever seen, absorbing the steel empire of Andrew Carnegie and merging it with dozens of related companies. The result is United States Steel, the world's first billion-dollar corporation. Morgan's influence now stretches far beyond steel: electricity, telecommunications, insurance, shipping, banking. He is no longer simply a banker. He has become the architect of American capitalism. In 1907, the federal government is powerless. There is no central bank, no emergency framework. Once again, Morgan intervenes, gathering bankers, forcing cooperation, and injecting liquidity through private influence. America survives. But this time, the public reaction changes. A dangerous question spreads across the nation. If one man can save the economy, does that mean he controls it? In 1912, Morgan is summoned to testify. He is 70 years old, white mustache, piercing eyes, still the most powerful man in the room. Committee Chairman Samuel Untermeyer confronts him directly. Do you control 72 corporations? Do you control America's economy? Morgan answers calmly, I have plenty of money, but I would not buy a security upon Mr. Untermeyer's recommendation for all the money in the world. To some, it sounds like confidence. To others, arrogance. Fear spreads. For the first time, the nation openly questions whether one man has become too powerful to exist in a free society. When Morgan's will is opened in 1913, the world is stunned. His net worth, just $80 million. For a man who shaped entire industries, dictated markets, and controlled the flow of capital across continents, the number seems impossibly small. Morgan never needed to own everything. He controlled money without possessing it. 9 months after his death, the Federal Reserve is created. America designs a system meant to ensure that no single private banker would ever again hold such overwhelming influence. But Morgan's blueprint does not disappear. It adapts. Through wars, depressions, regulation, and technological change, the institution carrying his name survives the 20th century. Then, in the year 2000, the blueprint evolves into something far larger. J.P. Morgan and Company merges with Chase Manhattan Bank, forming J.P. Morgan Chase & Company. Investment banking power merges with consumer banking scale. Elite Wall Street meets Main Street deposits. In September 2001, terrorist attacks strike the United States. Markets shut down, confidence collapses, the global financial system freezes. JP Morgan Chase becomes a stabilizing force, clearing payments, maintaining liquidity, and keeping financial infrastructure functioning while the nation is in shock. JP Morgan Chase acquires Bank One, bringing with it a hardened operator named Jamie Dimon. Dimon is not a visionary storyteller, he is a system builder. Obsessed with balance sheets, liquidity, and discipline, he begins reshaping the institution from the inside. JP Morgan Chase participates in the system, but more cautiously than rivals. Exposure is limited, capital is preserved. At the time, the strategy looks boring. In hindsight, it is survival. Just like 1907, history begins to rhyme. A new kind of crisis hits. COVID-19 shuts down the global economy in days. Markets crash, governments inject trillions. Once again, JP Morgan Chase stands at the center, managing liquidity, advising governments, stabilizing markets. Crisis no longer threatens the bank, it confirms its necessity. By 2025, the numbers speak for themselves. Nearly $4 trillion in assets, hundreds of thousands of employees, influence across governments, markets, and technology. The name JP Morgan no longer refers to a man, it refers to a design of power. So who was JP Morgan? A builder who shaped modern America? A savior who stabilized collapse when governments failed? Or a warning of what happens when power concentrates too deeply? Perhaps he was all three, because what began in 1837 did not end in 1913. It did not end in 2008, and it does not end in 2025. JP Morgan did not just build a bank, he built a blueprint for how power survives crisis. This was the story JP Morgan, the bank that built America,